Welcome to Holly and Martin Do Road Safety. Martin and I are road safety officers for Suffolk County Council's road safety team, and we're here to hopefully provide you with some useful advice for life on the road. Morning, Martin.
Morning, Holly.
Today we are joined by Colin Grogan and Andy Hawes to discuss the Women's Tour. Morning, Colin. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Holly. Morning, Martin.
Good morning.
So as cycling becomes more popular, particularly after the last year we've had with the lockdowns, could you both just tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you came into the world of cycling? If you wouldn't mind starting, Andy.
Hi, my name's Andy Hawes. I'm the route director for the Women's Tour. I've been a lifelong cyclist. I've been cycling 40 odd years now, competitively, more in recent times, just more for leisure. So I joined the team at Sweet Spot, the guys behind the Women's Tour, in 2010. So I'm going into my 11th year of working these guys, and obviously the Women's Tour has been running since 2014. So I've got a bit of a sort of a lifelong background in cycling, really.
Excellent, thanks, Andy. Colin.
So I'm the project manager for Suffolk County Council. I've been working with the team at Sweet Spot since 2010 when we hosted our first stage of a professional cycle race, and have worked with them on a variety of events, including the Tour Series, and also the very first Women's Tour event, which finished in Bury St Edmunds in 2014. So I almost feel like I'm part of their team as well as the Suffolk County Council are nowadays.
Absolutely.
Fab. Thanks, Colin.
In a nutshell, what is the Women's Tour and why is it so important?
So the Women's Tour is a 6-day professional cycle race, and it's carried out over a range of courses over those 6 days. You know, some quite hilly courses, some flat, some individual time trials. And it sits quite high up in the Women's World Tour calendar. Now, to put that into some sort of logic that people would understand, cycling is ranked very similar to football, with the Premier League being the top, obviously, and then the divisions going down. So the Women's Tour sits right at the very top. So it's a World Tour event. So in effect, like a Premiership football match. And it's very young. It only started in 2014, as Colin has already said. But over that time, it has grown to be the huge event that it is now. But by the riders, they know that it's one of the best organised events on the World Tour calendar. So when they know that and they've got their sort of feet around it over the last few years, all the biggest names in women's professional cycling make sure that they come and ride the Women's Tour. It really is a must-do event for them. So, and it is a very important race in the calendar, and it's also the biggest women's professional race in the UK as well. So it holds a lot of importance, both in UK sporting terms and sort of world cycling terms.
So, Colin, for our Suffolk listeners, is there a stage in the race that they can get involved in that's local to us?
Yeah, there is, and we're delighted to have been involved every year since the conception of the Women's Tour in 2014. And in 2021, we'll be hosting the very final stage. So we'll see the culmination of this year's World Tour race as the Women's Tour in Suffolk. Which will start in Haverhill and finish in Felixstowe and travel somewhere around 160 kilometres to get from one point to the other. So there'll be lots of opportunity for people along that route to get involved, to see the riders come through, but also to see them at both the start and the finish as the race develops. And we'll be looking at releasing the full route, the full details of that route in June sometime, along with the other stages. But a couple of places along the route, like Stowe Market, it'll be visiting again, which was there in 2019 as the finish of a stage. But other locations such as Woodbridge, Wickham Market, they'll all be en route. And then it's about sort of filling in the gaps in between.
Excellent. Thanks, Colin. So how can people get involved in the event? Is it only for experienced cyclists?
The actual race itself is obviously for professional cyclists, so you can't get involved in that side of things, but there's lots of opportunity to get involved in the race as it comes through the local communities, but also at the start and the finish. We'll be looking to engage communities in a community ride out before the race. For the first time, there's also going to be a ride for heroes, which is about identifying those unsung heroes during this recent or the past 14, 18 months during the pandemic, and they'll have an opportunity to ride out in front of the peloton and all those pro riders. But there's also there'll be community activity in the build up to the race, and we would also encourage communities along the route to get involved, to have their own celebration of a world-class event coming into their backyard. It's quite unique in its ability to actually engage such a wide section of the community and actually see the world's best cyclists actually coming into your town, village, or community. There's also the opportunity to volunteer, and you can volunteer by visiting the website. And that means you can actually get directly involved in the operation of the event, particularly at the start and the finish.
Fantastic. Thanks, Colin.
How long is the race in total? How long are the riders spending in the saddle?
So the riders are spending anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5 hours a day in the saddle. For the first time in the history of the women's tour, we've got an individual time trial at just 16 kilometres. So it'll be a short, sharp affair, maybe sort of 20 to 25 minutes worth of effort from some of the top pros. But yeah, on average, 3.5 to 4.5 hours a day. So the stages vary. The Suffolk stage is the longest stage at 160 kilometres. And then all the other stages are between 120 and 150 kilometres. So
people wanting to find more information on the women's tour, and I'm hoping this podcast will go to a lot of schools. I've been working quite a lot just recently with people doing bikeability, and I've been telling them about the women's tour. How can they find out more about it and get involved?
Well, that's one thing that we are very good at. We've got some very, very good social media channels. So firstly, we've got our website, womenstour.co.uk. So women's tour, all one word. And there you can find absolutely all the information that you could possibly want to find out about the race, where the stages are going to be, how long the stages are. And certainly, most importantly, the dates. We're due Suffolk on Saturday, the 9th of October. So that's the most important thing. And then we have a Facebook page, we've got Instagram, and we've also got Twitter as well. We also recently we've uploaded all of our sort of TV content to a YouTube channel as well. So just search the Women's Tour on YouTube. And then you should be able to get all of the past stages of this great race.
Well, that's great, Andy. If you can let us have those, we'll make sure that we put them in our podcast when they go out.
To finish up, Andy and Colin, do either of you have any advice for keen young cyclists who may want to take part in such events in the future?
I think it's very much a case of starting early. It would be fantastic to see somebody from Suffolk be inspired by watching the tour come through and going on to actually take part in a race and be part of a professional team. But ultimately, for us, it's very much about inspiring people to get out on their bikes and enjoy just the experience of cycling. And I think the younger that we can encourage children and families to get out and do that together, and bikeability and all of those things are the things that give children the basic skills on which to start cycling for leisure and for commuting and just going out and enjoying the sport. So I think the younger you can start, the better. And if you're committed and determined, then I think you've got every chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, I think what Colin said there, the most important thing is to get out and enjoy it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's at the end of the day, you have to enjoy what you do. Cycling is a very, very tough sport, but it is also very, very rewarding. Getting out there, getting those pedals turning from a young age, and just enjoy the freedom riding your bike gives you.
Yeah, I think it's a great social sport as well. With cycling clubs, it doesn't have to be cycling on your own, does it?
Absolutely not. Suffolk has some amazing cycling clubs, and the support that we see from the cycling clubs in and around Suffolk every time that the women's tour's been here, and also the Tour of Britain, you can see these guys all in their club jerseys at the side of the road. And I mean, many cyclists. You see them out on the road on a Sunday, and they've all got one thing in common: they all enjoy riding their bike, and more than likely than that, they all enjoy a cup of coffee and a bit of cake as well, which is for me is the absolute reason why I ride a bike, for coffee and cake.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. So that's all the questions we've got for today. I'll put the Women's Tour social media channels and their website in the description box. So for those listening along, it'll all be down there so you can quickly access those without having to search for them. So thank you so much, Colin. Thank you, Andy, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing the listeners at the race on the 9th of October.
Yeah, we'll see you down there, guys. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you
Bye.
later. Bye.
Bye.